Welcome to Rise from the Ashes, the podcast channel website that focuses on legal matters that may affect you and your family. On the program, we'll be talking with attorneys, mediators, counselors, and other family law professionals who understand the need to assist families and individuals in resolving the personal and legal issues they may be facing. Rise from the Ashes is sponsored by Mundall Law, who specializes in assisting families and individuals through the legal process with respect, dignity, and caring. Mundall Law is dedicated to helping people to solve their legal problems. You can visit the Mundall Law website at mundalllaw.com or call to schedule a consultation with one of their qualified family law attorneys. Please keep in mind that this podcast is intended only to inform and to assist in understanding legal and personal issues as they relate to family law. It should never be considered as a replacement for a qualified family law attorney. When in doubt, please contact a professional. Rise from the Ashes, focusing on matters of the family because family matters. Hi, and welcome to our podcast, Rise from the Ashes. I'm David Braddock. I'll be the host for the podcast, and we're talking today with Susan Mundall of Mundall Law. Susan, you said you had something special that you wanted to do today, rather than just typically talking about the legal aspects of family law. Can you tell us? What is that?
The thing is that I've been divorced for 27 years. I've also handled hundreds and hundreds of divorces. What I've learned is one of the things that tends to get lost are the kids when you're talking about going through your grief cycle. I have suggested through the years one of the best things you can do is to set up a date night with each of your children. I actually have been doing that with my own kids. I started when my son was 10 years old, and at that time we didn't have a lot of money, so we would go to McDonald's. Then I would later do it with my daughter. We started doing it when she was 3, and what we did then is we actually went to ECFE, Early Childhood Family Development classes, and that was our date night. The point of it is that it's time that you devote specifically to one child at a time when they have your undivided attention. It's so special to them because really when we are going through stress and stuff like that, and this really works for people who are married just as well as people who are divorced and trying to keep their families functioning well. It is just a great overall tool. And let me tell you the process.
Okay.
The process is, number one, make sure it's a restaurant where you have to drive, so you're in the car together, and make sure the restaurant is nice enough that you have to sit there and wait to get your food, because that's your time to chat with the kids.
That starts out the date night. What kinds of things do you talk about?
That's a really good question, David. And in fact, I actually have a blog on it. The blog is, How Well Do You Know Your Kids?
And that's on the Mundall Law website.
That's right. You know, so many people, they will say, how was school or how was your day? And all they will get is fine. What you're trying to do is know a little bit more about your children's life. You know, it's healthy for both of you. Things like, what makes you laugh? Or what is your favorite food? Or if you could go on vacation anywhere in the world, where would you go?
So a little more thought-provoking, because like you say, usually a young person is going to give you the one-word answer when you ask them a question like, how is school? What sports are you taking? Those are the typical questions. These are a lot more intriguing. Let's try a couple more here.
Well, let me just give you a little background.
Okay.
Years ago, 7 years after my divorce, I started dating a man, and it was a 20-minute drive from where we picked up the kids to his home. His 2 children, one was 10 and one was 14, a boy and a girl, and they would sit in his back seat, and he would look out the window, and the kids would be beating on each other. And so I would start asking him questions. And I said, let's just call him Charlie. So, Charlie, you're now in 4th grade. I remember 4th grade, and I loved my teacher. Who's your teacher? What's she like? And so the 14-year-old, she was in 8th grade. And I said, 8th grade. I remember 8th grade. We studied geography in 8th grade. Are you getting geography? What's that like? Or, if it's biology or what it is. Remember back to your own childhood.
Right.
And that way you get a conversation going. And I do recall at the time my boyfriend telling me that he learned more about his children in that 20 minutes than he had ever known about him when they were just looking out the window. I actually told him about the date night with his kids. And here's the bottom line. If you go and buy kids a meal, they'll sit with you.
Right. They're hungry.
Exactly. They're always hungry. And with his kids, they always wanted an appetizer and a dessert in addition to the main meal. And he did it because it gave him this opportunity to really learn more about his kids and really get involved in their lives. And I think it developed a more meaningful relationship with them, which is why I wanted to talk about this today.
Okay. Let's cover a couple more of these questions.
Okay.
Or the types of examples so that when they do get together with their children, one of the last podcasts that we did was on parenting time and how to balance that out between the two parents, because it's important for a child to have a relationship with both parents, no matter what happened during the divorce process.
Actually, David, that raises a really good point. And that's what not to ask your children about. And I'm so glad you raised it, because one of the things you should not be doing is pumping your children for information on their time spent with the other parent. I think that that's really important, because now you're making your children uncomfortable.
Because it seems like when those competitive answer my questions about the other person comes up, it can be damaging to the child because they don't necessarily want to hurt the other person.
That's right. Children need to be able to love both their parents, regardless of how you feel about your ex-spouse. And that is the important point. So if you want to say, did you have fun this weekend? This is one where maybe asking the overall question is fine, but not, oh, did Daddy have anyone with him? Oh, where did you go? And who did you talk to? And those kind of things. That's all inappropriate. Do steer away from those questions. But better yet, if they come back and they look fairly happy, leave it alone.
Sure.
Or even make the comment, hey, it looks like you had a great time at Mom's.
Yeah.
And then just leave it at that. And then dwell on the other pieces of things like, what is your favorite room in the house? Hey, how would you spend $1 million?
I like this one. What do you think you can do pretty well?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your favorite music? Those kinds of things.
Those are great. What's the best birthday gift you ever got? Although that might be a little loaded, I think.
Yeah, right. Here's one. How would you spend $5,000 in cash?
Yeah.
I think you better be prepared to answer that one.
Oh, yeah. All of us can think about at Christmas time. That's a loaded question, too. I have 2 grandchildren, 6 and 8, and I love the questions they ask. Well, can I have everything? Right.
Depending on the age of the child. I like this one. What would you like to invent?
Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah, because that could stimulate all kinds of creative discussion, and it would zero in on the kinds of things that the child dreams about.
That actually even brings up another subject, which is make sure your children have enough things that they can use their imagination. My grandkids last weekend asked for the empty toilet roll.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they were making things out of those.
Okay.
And so you have to have glue, and you have to have magic markers, and maybe glitter. And think about getting those, especially dads, because maybe you aren't thinking in that area. But those kind of things would be really important for your children, for you to just sit down and do some creating that way. And that's another way that can lead to good communication.
Yeah, that could be a date night right there, is where you're making things together. I like that.
Right.
Yeah, so there's a couple ideas. So go to the restaurant. It takes a while to take your order so you can get an opportunity to talk, or, maybe go for a walk in the park, those type of things. The creative idea of get some items that you can build something together or make something together. What are some other ideas of things that you could do with your child or children?
I do think that it's limitless.
Of course.
But I do think if you go to the internet, there's pages for things that a family can do on a weekend. But again, if you don't have a lot of money, check out your public library. They always have story times for kids. As I say, the list is really endless. And in Google, in under 5 minutes, you can find 10 different things to do on any given weekend of the year with your kids.
There you go. Now, we were looking a little bit beforehand, too, at some of the suggestions on the website for things with respect to children and their needs There was a page on developmental stages of children. That obviously could play into this somewhat, depending on the age of your child.
Absolutely. There's a fellow, Eric Erickson, and he's sort of the leader in this field that talks about the developmental stages of children. And I really do think every parent should read up on what their child's psychosocial development is at any given age, because it is also going to determine what needs your children have for friendship and relationship with you. And so do check it out. We do have a number of blogs related to that. I think we have 3 different blogs for the different age groups. One is teenagers and one is young children, and then the tweens, so to speak.
Right.
Those are all helpful in knowing how to talk to your children about what they might be experiencing going through the divorce. But I think going forward, one other thing I want to say about that is you need to recognize your children do have a need, and it is important to their psychosocial development that they be able to have relationships with children their own age. And if you and your ex-spouse live in different communities, you need to be very strategic about making sure that they have the ability to develop those relationships.
Of the children of their own age.
Exactly. In fact, it's called the pal age, the tween years, and about how important it is to have pals and later in the dating years. So if your expectation is your children are going to come over and be warehoused at your house, and all they're going to do is watch TV or play video games for an entire weekend, and they're missing out on birthday parties and swim meets and school dances and stuff like that, you are actually harming your children and keeping them from being able to develop good, sound adult relationships with people of the same sex and opposite sex.
In their later years.
In their later years. Carrying on through their entire life.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It is very interesting and very important, which is why I wanted to spend a little time today talking about it. And I hope everyone hearing this podcast will check out our blogs, check out Eric Erickson's psychosocial development stages for children. It actually talks about adults, because we also, even going up into our 60s, we have developmental stages continuing.
Okay. Thank you so much for giving us some ideas on communicating better with your children through a date night.
Thank you, David.
You are listening to Rise from the Ashes, the podcast channel that takes a careful look at all things having to do with legal procedure within the family law process. Rise from the Ashes is sponsored by Mundall Law, who specializes in assisting families and individuals through the legal process with respect, dignity, and caring. Mundall Law is dedicated to helping people to solve their legal problems. You can visit the Mundall Law website at mundalllaw.com or call to schedule a consultation with one of their qualified family law attorneys. Rise from the Ashes, focusing on matters of the family, because family matters.